And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vessal.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vessal, and today we're taking a look at Altiplano. I was very pumped about this game because it was from the same designer and company who made Orleans, which is a game I like a lot. Orleans is a bag builder where you have a bag that you're putting your hand in and pulling out tokens, and then you buy more tokens and throw them in your bag, and your bag is going to change as time goes by. So I'm going to be doing two videos here. One video is going to be comparing the two. That's a different video. This one I'm just going to be talking about how this game plays and what's different about it. Here it is. So in Altiplano, you're going to have these areas here, these regions. You're going to place them around the board, and it doesn't really matter how you place them. It's just that they're randomly going to be a distance apart from them. On a player's turn, you're going to start on one of them, and then you're going to be moving around, basically like in a circle, going from place to place. Now the whole goal of this game is to get points. There's lots of different resources in the game, and each player starts with one of these here that tells you the resources and their cost. And the points that they're worth. So you can see down here that the water is worth 4 points, and a lot of the resources are worth no points at all. And there's cards that are going to be worth points. And in some cards like these houses here will increase the value of other tokens over the course of the game. So the goal is to get the most points, and the question is, how do you do that? At the beginning of the game, each player is going to get a roll card. You can pick them randomly or draft them. These roll cards are going to basically tell you a couple things. First of all, let's say this is my roll card. They tell you your starting resources. So this one here, I get 2 food, 1 fish, and I get one of these rocks here, tokens. And by the way, there's tokens out on all these locations. The number is basically determined by the number of players in the game. There's going to be more tokens for more players. So these are my starting tokens. I also have an extra special ability at a certain location. This one here takes place at the port, so I would put this here next to the port. I start with my own board here. I have my storehouse. I have a little box here. This is kind of a discard pile of sorts. And I also have a bag, and I'm going to put my starting tokens in this bag, and then each turn you're going to draw at least 4 of the tokens from your bag. So I would draw the 4 here that I have. And you can draw more than that. As time goes by, you'll be able to draw up to 8. It depends on some special abilities. Now, what players are going to do at the beginning of each turn, players will draw from their bag. You can leave tokens here from turn to turn. You might have tokens stuck up on the board elsewhere, which don't count, and you'll fill these spots in. As you buy tokens or use tokens, they're going to get thrown into here. When you need to pull tokens from your bag, and there are none in it, then you'll dump this into your bag and then pull those back out. So players will simultaneously take these tokens and decide where to put them up here. So I might, for example, put a fish and a food up in the port area and put another food up here like that. And then this rock, maybe I'll put it here. Now I need a wood for this action to operate, but I'll put that rock there and hope I get the wood later on. And so that's what I'm going to do. After everyone has placed all their different tiles, players will take actions. You can only take an action where your guy is. Now remember, I said you could put your guy on the board on any spot for free. So maybe I'll put my character here in this spot here where the port is. There's different actions you can take in each one. So for example here, I can trade a fish and a food in to get another food, all of which go here in the crate. And another action might be turn this food in for another fish. So there's different actions that you can take at the different places, and there's going to be different tokens that are in the different spots. Most of the actions are going to be trading in resources for other resources. So you can see over here, you can trade in a llama for food, you can trade a llama for food in for this and that for that, and different places. There's a couple places that are different, and I'll get to those in a moment, but I should mention that you can only go to where you're at. How do you move from one spot to another? Well, each person starts with a cart. You can use this cart and move up to 1 to 3 spaces. Now, because of the way this game's set up, that's pretty much anywhere. you can move 1 to 3 spaces. I can go 1, 2, 3 this direction or 1, 2, 3 that direction and go to one of those other spaces. But I can only do that once per turn. So even if I have a lot of tokens, can I take more than one action? Well, the answer is yes. If you put food here, you can use a food to go 1 space in either direction. And if you manage to get another cart, you can use a food plus that cart to go 1 to 3 spaces in various directions. Speaking of carts, if you're in this spot here, that's one of the things you do is buy a cart. You can buy these cards, which I mentioned before. You just go through here and pick it, and it's going to take one of the resources in the game and make that resource worth 1 more point. Also, these cards are worth 4 points at the end of the game. You can go over here and you can get an order. You put these orders in front of you and you're going to put resources on them. So for example, if I have this one here, a llama, stone, and water, this is worth 17 points and it gives me a food token. These tokens themselves are worth nothing at the end of the game, but combined 17 points is worth way more than the value of those tokens. So I go through these when I pay and get one of those orders. I can also get an expansion tile. These expansion tiles are going to change. They're randomly placed there, kind of randomly because there's A, B, C, D, and E stacks. So you put these here and you can buy these with money. Money is one of the currencies in the game. And when you take this item, you're going to place it and you can have 1 for each of the areas on your board. So this one here is in the mountains. And so I'd put this by the mountains. When I'm there, I have something I can turn food into that rock, which is a pretty handy ability to have because that rock is worth 2 points. And you can see that I'm going to get a lot of food from my fish little combination that I have going here. Another thing you'll want to do is up in this spot here. This is the forest up here in the middle, or the path. And when you go here, you can pay and you'll be able to move farther on this path your token. And the farther you move, the more tokens you'll be able to pull from the bag. 5, 6, 7, then finally 8. And it also gives you some corn tokens. Then there's boats. When you buy a boat down here, you can go through and pick a boat. Boats are worth 2 points, but they also give you a token of your choice, essentially. You just pick one of these, and this one gives me a free llama, for example. So that's another way to get a specific point. And there's also places where you can trade and sell goods for money. You know, each good is worth various points of money. This is all listed on your board right here. It tells you how much money they're worth. And, you know, all sorts of different things you can do at the different spots. Up here, you can put goods in your storehouse. Now, storehouse, this is one of the major ways to make points over the course of the game. When you put something in your storehouse and you can't put food, so let's say I put a fish here. You always have to start in the bottom. This is the lowest valued row. Now that I put a fish here, if I put any more fish in my storehouse, I have to keep putting them in this row till it's full. If it's full at the end of the game, I get 2 points. If it's not full, nothing happens. I still get points for the fish. In this case, how many points are fish? Well, fish are worth 0. So that's not going to help me out, but if I filled the whole thing, I'll get 2 points. Whenever you get corn, you must put corn in the storehouse. That's the only place for it. And you can start a new row, which means that whole row has to be corn, or corn can go with another resource helping fill in that row. If I get, for example, let's say I'm going to put a llama in the storehouse, the llama will just go to the next row. So the more things you get, the more different items in here, you can get up and get a lot of points. But again, you have to get the item there and then fill it in completely. And that's pretty much how the game's going to play. Players are just going to take turns going around. How does the game end? The game ends when you have, if you notice, there's stacks of stuff all over the board. And the game will end when all the tiles and cards in one location are gone, are used up. When that happens, then you'll do some final scoring. You're going to add up all the points for all the different tokens that you've gotten over the course of the game, if you get bonus tokens from these or not. And you'll get tokens from your orders that you have fulfilled. And you get points for your boats and points for your houses. And whoever has the most points is the winner. You can also play with a mission expansion. You have 2 missions that you can try to fulfill. You get 3 of these at the beginning of the game. So if I have 4 water at the end of the game, I get 8 points. If I have the most of the rock at the end of the game, I'll get 8 points. So these gives you a little bit of focus as to what you're trying to do. That's pretty much the game. So the components for this game are pretty good. I mean, this is the first player marker, which is kind of ridiculous. It doesn't stand up very well. But if you want a giant llama piece. The board itself, when I'm looking at the different symbols that are on the board, it's pretty easy to tell what they all do, but you're going to be constantly looking at this, and then you look at the little icon here to see what that matches on the main board. Although having all the goods on the main board of that type certainly doesn't hurt. Now these tokens are just small little tokens like this. They're going to work for the game or not. If you played Orleans, you might be disappointed that they're not the thick wooden ones from the deluxified version. But I found these very easy to differentiate from each other. Not only are they different colors, but they also have different symbols on them. And the money is the same way. I do like how the money has kind of a funky shape. You're not going to have tons of money probably in this game, but they have enough denominations in there. These boards themselves are very nice. The game is going to take up a decent amount of table space as you spin these around, but I like the art on these. It has a nice downward look, and again, it's very simple. It shows you the points that are on them, the symbol here, so in case you're trying to match your own board, and it even has the starting amount of resources for each player, which is really nice. Stacking a whole pile of these is fine. You probably won't have to stack too high because you're probably not going to play with 5 players too often, but having a whole stack works okay. The carts, I wish they were not just cubes. Maybe little wooden carts would have been better or something, but that's fine. And then I like having this. This is not a big deal, but it does show you the point values of everything over the course of the game. The bags are big. This matters for someone who has a big hand like I do. I can fit my hand in there. And these boxes are a little unusual because basically they come like this and then they just kind of snap together. And you can keep them in the box put together. You might want to glue them though because it's not hard to take them apart. I mean, you just basically, that's it. So any bit of movement, they're going to fall apart. That's it. The components are pretty good for this game. Everything works really well. You're just going to have to spend some time, of course, separating all these different components at the end of the game and probably separately bagging them because they need to be separated at the beginning. Okay, so this is, like I said, a bag builder, although it effectively could be a deck builder because you are pulling tokens out of a bag, using those tokens, and then putting them into the box. That's essentially a deck builder, so your discard pile. But there's a couple ways that it's different. First of all, their cards would be a real pain to have all these cards over the board. Secondly, when you use these tokens, you can put basically tokens on your board and just let them sit there for a while until you find the matching tokens to be able to do those actions. So there's that. Also, every token in this game is, well, possibly worth points, or there are definitely ways to get points. And so it's kind of an interesting, you're building up a little bit of an engine. And that's what Altiplano really is. It is an engine builder. Now, the board out there exists. It's not... You have these 7 different locations and you can move from one to the other. It's mostly just a way to kind of slow you down to not be able to do too many actions in your turn. At the beginning of the game, you're going to only be able to do actions at 2 locations until you get some more food. Food is definitely an important resource to be able to do more maneuvering on the board, and food can help you get other spots. But this game is kind of, when you first get into it, it almost has a feeling of you're going to sit there and go, wow, what should I do? Because everything doesn't look fantastic, but you need to get stuff. Like, you're like, do I get points here? Do I get points here? So I'm really glad the game gives you those personas, that it gives you slightly a focus, like the one you saw where I was able to get food and fish and then switch it and get more food and fish and switch it. You can start like a little engine with that guy, get some food and fish, and then just use that food to be able to move around the board, maybe sell the fish or do something, maybe get the building that makes fish worth a point, things like that. What are you going to do? And I feel like that's a useful thing because at the beginning of the game, it's like, and in fact, even though the missions are optional, I would regard them as pretty critical that way too, because having 2 missions where this mission says, you should try to get a lot of this for extra points at the end of the game, that helps me determine what I will do or not do. And so I think that that was useful. The game is for 2 to 5 players, and 5 is too many. I haven't even played 5. How do I know 5's too many? Because 4 is pushing it. The length of the game can really slow down, and even though I'll say right now, I like Altiplano. I think it's a really good game. You really aren't dealing with the other players that much. Essentially, it's just they bought stuff before you, like those extension boards, or maybe they're taking these tokens instead of you. You really don't deal with the other players much, and I'm glad that the one part simultaneously, we work on that. And in fact, when I play this game, I will often just kind of be glancing at other people slightly and going, oh, okay, they're doing stuff, whatever. And I just focus on what I'm doing myself. So if that multiplayer solitaire is something that you're not interested in, well, then you probably don't want to play this because it's definitely in here in spades. Now, I said that the game has a bit of an unfocused feeling until you kind of know what you're doing, but that is interesting because you're sitting there going, I can use these to get this and this. And as the game progresses, it gets way more interesting. You're getting pieces like, oh, now I can put out 6 tokens at a time or 7 tokens, and I'm going to do this and move this over here. And then you have that warehouse, which is an interesting way because it's kind of culling your deck. You're taking tokens out so you don't keep drawing the same tokens over and over again. But it also could be worth a lot of points at the end of the game. You also have to be careful because you can stick stuff there and then maybe you need to use those tokens earlier. So it's kind of a question of when do I pull them out? I start pulling tokens out earlier, I'll be able to fill that warehouse up more quickly. But if I, fill up that warehouse quickly, I might be stuck with the same tokens over and over again. How far do we move up on that track? Do I buy these extension boards? There's really a lot of stuff to get, and there's really a lot of different strategies. And I really feel like I haven't scratched the depth that's in this game. It's a really entertaining game for me. Again, I do realize that when I'm playing this, I'm essentially ignoring the other people at the table. I'm mostly just waiting for them to take their turns so I can go next. And I'm glad that parts of it are simultaneous, and sometimes I'm sitting there going, okay, go, because I want to go again. I'm excited about what I'm going to do next, but I found that fascinating. I like that everything is worth points. You kind of got a point salad type thing going here. These are points and these are points. I like that the buildings will increase the value of some chips, and then it gives you more of a focus. Wow, these rocks are now worth 3 points for me. I'm going to get as many of those as I possibly can. But at the same time, they're kind of, what am I using these rocks for? All right, we'll start sticking them in a warehouse, which can give me even more points. So I'm curious. Obviously, I want to come back in a year and see what I'm thinking about this game right now. But it is very good. It's really entertaining. And of course, many of you are saying, was it better than Orleans? Well, go watch that video and I'll tell you more about there. But I will say, regardless, fantastic game. Definitely one to check out. Dice Tower Judgment. Excellent.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.